the window of opportunity is open in Africa. You had the big White House summit in the United States. You saw a lot of new investment being targeted to Africa. You look at China being the biggest trade partner here now. You look at Europe, which is opening up funds that are investing into Africa. You even look in Africa, where we're seeing more cross-country within Africa trading. There is a real interest in our clients to be here, so we know we have to be here.
Mark, there's a talk about in your report, Realizing the Possibility Africa 2030, that there's an important shift that will have to happen for Africa to realize its full potential. Tell us about some of the shifts that are critical to your storyboard.
Yeah, and so picking up on what has been said, I will tell you the long-term story of Africa has remained the same. The opportunity here is unparalleled from a demographic standpoint and from a mineral standpoint, resource standpoint, and from a labor standpoint. What needs to be done to get to 2030 prosperity that we're talking about? There's 5 things we talk about in the report. Shared value, where corporations, businesses come here and recognize that to do well here, the community has to do well, you have to build it together, have to have an environment for success. You have to have partnership with the government. Business can't do it alone. We need government help. Government certainly can't do it alone. Part of the dialogue here at the Strategic Growth Forum is getting business and government to talk more openly and honestly about the issues and challenges we have. Certainly the integration, regional integration that was mentioned by Jin is very important. Entrepreneurship, making sure small businesses innovate and thrive. That drives jobs and it drives growth in every corner of the world. We need a good environment for entrepreneurs here. And certainly, we all know infrastructure. We need investments in infrastructure that are going to help enable the regional integration.
And you can talk about entrepreneurship with authority, Mark, because EY sponsors the EY Entrepreneurship of the Year Awards, and you've been doing it for years. But shared values. Talk to me about how we develop shared values. Jen talks about 54 African states, all their different types of governance standards, levels of corruption at different levels. How do we then develop shared values among African nations and the private sector and civil society to make sure that we drive this growth? Because otherwise it becomes something we talk about but never achieve.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. If you look at long-term sustainable growth, you're not going to have business succeed if you don't have communities succeed, if you don't have an educated and thriving workforce, and if you don't have a broader development process of working with government. And so there is a real desire to have a purpose of driving the environment around you to success in order to be a strong business. And we're really sensing that here in Africa.
Jen, you are on the ground here on the African continent. Tell me about how you're going about doing that, fostering that culture of we are all in this together, private sector and public sector. Just give me some of the examples, because already you have led the integration of the firm across the, 30 countries or so on the continent. How are you going about doing that from a local feet on the ground?
So Victor, it's at 2 levels. One is clearly we're speaking to our clients, we're speaking to the government. It's really about an understanding of what the shared value it's about. Recognizing that business has got to play a role in building the communities, developing the skills that are not there, because it's a virtuous circle. As business invests in communities, we grow the middle class and there's more consumers in the market, which ultimately fuels business. So this is really what governments are looking for. They're looking for business and government to partner to make a difference to the communities. I think a pure profit purpose or pure profit motives for business is not going to work in Africa, is not going to work in emerging markets, frankly is not going to work in any market in the world post-financial crisis. So our engagement is really to get companies, the large multinationals, who have the capacity and resources to work together to do this. So EY is an example. We recognized that we had to combine our practices across Africa. We've combined in 33 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. We operate as a single business. We're now investing heavily in the skills of our local staff across the continent. Where we don't have them, we're recruiting them, we're giving them mobility experiences in other markets. We're bringing skilled people from mature markets of the world who can come and share that knowledge for a period of time as we develop local skills and sustainability. I think it's when we work together and make sure there's sustainable legacy behind that everybody benefits, it's virtuous for everyone.
Victor, can I just add one more quick point on this, because I think it's really important, is that we had a dinner last night with our partners and we went around the table and we talked about outside of work, what you do, and the stories about what we contribute to youth unemployment, the time that people put in to help mentor younger people, build the profession, and certainly work with women entrepreneurs. It was astounding. Those are all things that seem like they're good to do, but they're also good for business.
Tell me about that. You're also a training organization, EY, and the nature of your business requires that you train your own skills. So already people acknowledge Africa doesn't always have the depth of the skills that you need. You either have to source people from elsewhere in the world. How is that game playing out? Are you finding it easier, Jen, that you are able to attract people, skilled people to come back into the continent and apply their trade here? Or are you having to do a lot of persuading?
You know, there's no doubt when it comes to recruiting, young people recognize, particularly a career with EY provides them with so many opportunities. As they join us, we recognize that not everybody will stay with us. Some come for a period of time for professional certification, training, we'll absorb some of them, but many of these folk move on to management and leadership positions in the marketplace, in private sector and in government. So we start with that recognition up front. So as an organization, our commitment is to develop that skill irrespective of where it's going. And I think the fact that we invest in that pipeline of people who will become leaders in society is what allows us to attract high quality people to our own organization. So consistently, each of the last 3 years, we've been ranked the #1 professional services employer across Africa. Now, we're only able to do that if we're truly investing in people, giving them the career opportunities to grow and make a difference in the communities.
Overall, Mark, I'm just going to ask you, are you bullish? You've made the investment already and you've been in the game for a while now as the new leader of EY Global. Are you bullish about the continent, especially compared to China and India and other emerging markets? Do you see a longer upside in the African story or not?
Well, unequivocally, yes. We see emerging markets a growing part of our business overall. 30% or plus of our revenue will come from emerging markets by 2020. It's only about 17 or 18% today. When we look which emerging markets have great opportunity, Africa is right up there. And when I talk about Africa, it is across the continent. Certainly in South Africa, great gateway, but we see tremendous opportunity in Kenya, Nigeria, and the surrounding areas.
And Jen, you are again at the coal face on this African story. What is your closing word?
You know, we feel very excited about the opportunity. I think there's a unique period in our history where we can work together as business and government to shape a new destiny, and EY is really ready to play its role in that success.